So we'll talk about Jenkins today. So as in Azure DevOps as like a full package, right? So but if you see that one sec. See, why do we need Jenkins? So we have seen like a complete package, right? In Azure DevOps, right? Like uh, we have done the CI/CD complete, right? So as part of that, if you see, even if you are migrating or if you have already been using Azure DevOps, but most of the projects which have been there since long back, they are already using Jenkins. So they may not be in a comfortable position to uh, switch between the existing whatever the environment where they have already an established process and which has been running without any issues, right? So that might be a challenging or the question for many projects, right? So I think that we have already using our Jenkins in our project, but I don't want to move to the CI pipelines, whatever is available as part of the package, right? In that case, we still have a flexibility of using, continue to use your Jenkins and the other features which are available as part of your package, any cloud, right? So for that, Jenkins is, you can use it. See, what is Jenkins? Jenkins is basically a continuous integration server. This is basically from the Java-based application, right? So, and it is mainly open source. Being an open source project, there are many projects who are already using in their projects, right? Jenkins is very popular Java-based open source continuous integration server that allows teams to continuously build applications across the platforms. Azure Pipelines also integrates well with Jenkins for teams who already use or prefer to use Jenkins for CI. So you can integrate your Azure pipeline to the Jenkins. So that way you are not changing anything with your existing environment. You will continue to use your Jenkins along with your Azure pipelines, right? There are two ways we can actually integrate Jenkins pipelines to or Jenkins to our Azure pipelines. One way is the CI jobs in Jenkins separately. So first you run the Jenkins as a separately, then involve your Azure pipeline to the Jenkins, basically to give create a connection between your Azure pipeline and the existing Jenkins, right? You have to use the webhook for that in Azure DevOps. That involves here. One way is to run CI Jenkins jobs separately. This involves configuration of CI pipelines in Jenkins. So you need to configure those things. And a webhook in Azure DevOps that invokes the CI process when source code is pushed to a repository or a branch. Ultimately, we will end up creating a CI/CD pipeline, which we have already done it, right? Only the difference is instead of a separate task, which is part of our Azure pipeline, so we will involve or create a connection to the Jenkins where you have already established your process in Jenkins, right? So let's say what we have done, whenever the check-in happens into the version control system, automatically your pipeline will trigger. That's what continuous integration, right? That's what we have enabled it. Remember, that is that. Let me show that.
Bhaskar, if you if we use Jenkins as a CI tool externally for the Azure DevOps, no need of Azure like hosted agents, right? Hosted or Azure agents,
Not required.
not required. Okay.
Not required. See, we have projects which are running completely on Jenkins.
Okay.
Right? Even that CI/CD is enabled.
Yes, yes, yes.
In
Yeah.
the Jenkins itself. Your Jenkins itself will work like a release pipeline, complete.
Oh,
See,
okay, okay.
what happens, you can create your n number of Jenkins jobs, basically, right?
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
say an
mhm.
example. Let's paint. So generally, typically, what kind of environments we have? Assume you have first your development environment, then you have your QA environment, then you have your production or pre-production, right? Yeah, maybe this is dev. Assume you have different environments. So ultimately, what happens? Just give me a second. Just move this. Okay. So ultimately, you have your source code in some repository. It can be any repository. This is your repository. Source repo. So there will be developers. And number of developers, 1, developer 2, developer 3, developer 4, or CM team, or the release team, and number of them, right? So now this developer 1 checks in some source code here, right? Even developer 2 does some changes. Developer 3 does some changes, right?
Okay.
This even release team do some there's some configuration changes and they will commit. Now ultimately the changes are here. Now you can configure your Jenkins. Assume that all these things in Jenkins. Not a single server, but all are configured in Jenkins, different Jenkins servers,
Mhm.
right? Now, as soon as some check-in happens, so here you have an option to enable the CA, right? Again, there are multiple ways. There are something called triggers. There are 3 to 4 ways of having trigger. So you have the option to, as soon as check-in happen, automatically push the changes to Jenkins job. That is one option. Or there is something called poll SCM. If say there are, assume that let's say there are 100 developers, right, for working. So they want to trigger in general. This is a real-time scenarios. Few real-time scenarios I'm talking about. We'll talk about few scenarios so that you can understand better Jenkins, right? Assume now you have 100 developers who will check in the source code maybe 200 times, right? Every day. Assume that are 100 times. 100 developers does 150 check-ins, right? Now I don't want to trigger my Jenkins job 150 times. I want to trigger only once or twice.
Okay, once in a day or twice in a day.
Twice in a day,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
early morning and midnight. What if there is something called poll SCM? So I can poll whenever there is a check-in happens. Assume that this is one scenario. Another scenario, there are only 3 developers, right? 3 developers. They might do a 3 to 4 check-ins, right? Maybe 3 check-ins, commits basically. I'm okay to poll SCM. So trigger 3 times. There's no issues because this is one way. Another way, even if you have 3 developers, assume that your build takes maybe 8 hours. Do I really need to trigger for every commit? Because my build takes 8 hours. I don't want to do that. Maybe around 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. night or 10 p.m. I will trigger it. Morning by 8 or something, my objects are ready. Right? This is one scenario. So again, you have multiple ways or scenarios where you can configure your Jenkins itself like a pipeline. Right? So based on your requirement. So ultimately what happens here, as soon as based on your triggers, it's called triggers. There is an option for triggers. I will show you that practically, right? Based on your trigger, some whether it is for every commit or daily once or weekly twice, there are a few projects which will run actually for us 2 to 3 days, right? End-to-end process. So for that, what we do, we will weekly twice we'll schedule it. So in this 2 to 3 days, the developers will do commits and the integration will happen automatically by approving the same. That process will continue. Approval process, your pull request, creating pull request, review and putting it back. Ultimately, there is a scheduled time every Thursday at 6 p.m. So by 6 p.m., the check-ins or commits, reviews, everything should be done. So automatically my Jenkins job will get triggered every day at every Thursday at 6 p.m. So by Friday, it will be ready. My objects are ready. I mean, the results ultimately. In case of any failures, we have a buffer of weekend or something, right? So that way we have configured for few of the Jenkins jobs. So Thursday it will trigger. By Friday, my results will be out. By Friday evening, in case of any blockers which we have to work, obviously you have a buffer time of Saturday and Sunday, which is like you have to obviously spend in case of any issues. That way we have configured. So based on these triggers, your Jenkins job will get triggered automatically. Again, first it will go to example. Maybe I should have put dev first. That's okay. Doesn't matter. Right. Now, once my developer job is done, I can configure in my Jenkins, trigger my QA job or maybe intermediate. Once QA job is done, trigger my production job. Again, you can put a lot of conditions here. If my minimum required test cases have been passed, then only go and trigger my pre-production. If pre-production everything is fine, then go and deploy to my production. Assume there is one more production which is out. So this is your production, right? So you go and trigger it. So your Jenkins itself can work like whatever we have done using our pipelines, right? But what are the advantages when over Jenkins? You have a lot of built-in functions, built-in templates in pipelines, Azure pipelines. That is the biggest advantage. Here Jenkins, you need to configure everything manually. That is the main reason why we have shifted or generally people are preferring to use your pipelines. It can be any pipeline. So Azure pipelines, right? So basically what happens, we have our build pipelines, right? The equivalent job can be done using your Jenkins, right? So ultimately what happens, the end result of these things will be an artifact, right? So the artifacts will be deployed into multiple destinations, right? Let's say you have your build artifacts. You go and deploy into different locations. I mean, different destinations. Basically, it can be a what is a packages. It can be a Docker environment. It can be your production environment. Many things, right? There are two ways to integrate Jenkins with Azure pipelines. We have discussed already. The alternate way is to wrap a Jenkins CI job inside an Azure pipeline. In this approach, a build definition will be configured in Azure pipelines to use the Jenkins tasks to invoke a CI job in Jenkins. So this is another way of integrating your Jenkins to Azure pipelines, right? Ultimately, whether it is whatever the build pipeline we have defined in our pipelines, same thing can be achieved through using Jenkins, right? The end output will be an artifact. So the artifacts now, see, until let's say only the build part. So integrating to your version control tool, and since you have already established your process, so you want to continue at least till the build part. Once your artifacts are ready, then move those artifacts or link those artifacts to further deployment pipelines, right? So that way also you can do. In case if you want to utilize the features which are available as part of your service providers, so you can link your Jenkins in that way as well, right? So to configure Jenkins in Jenkins VM, see basically what there are. If assume for our scenario, for our class. So there are predefined templates. Basically, if you go to even you can create your Jenkins template. The template itself is available. Or if you go to AWS, there are images which are available in the uh, AWS basically, right? So just download that particular instance, which is a bundled or packaged the Jenkins along with that provider or the instance basically, right? So you can install that. You no need to install or configure many things, right? So by default, the Jenkins is installed. Even it is a straightforward step, even if you want to install Jenkins. But again, as a template, if you want to use in Azure basically, so better to use the template which is created in the template. That is one way. Other way is you can install your Jenkins and configure it. So there are simple way to install. Just go to your where is my browser, right? See, you can download your war file and run java-jar using that one way of that. There are other ways. Download the exe and install it as a service. And if it is Windows, basically, you have multiple options to download this, right? So we will download based on your OS. If it is Docker image, it will be Docker image. If it is right, based on your target, you download it. It is OS, macOS, download the macOS. Simple thing, right? And install it. Ultimately, you will have a service. First, what we'll do, we'll try this. Portal.azure.com. Yes. So we'll install as a package. I don't think with free version we can. I will try this. I'm not sure whether this is available as part of free package. If not, we'll have to create our own. Let's see. First, we'll try. We'll do this location. It's okay. There will be a lot of providers basically in this. Right. No, I don't want to go with this specific provider. Nilesh Partners, and he is the provider for this. Go to your resources. There is my resources. So what I'm trying to do here, so I'm trying to create a Jenkins service. That's all. Charged. I'm looking for the free one. This free one. So again, this process remains same like how we have created your any resource, right? So user demo, virtual machine name, Jenkins VM, you can say. So location, everything remains same. Standard Jenkins, returning. I want to try this with my username password instead of next. Mostly we'll go with the default ones. Only thing is we will see. Next. We need public IP because we want to access from my laptop. This does not support, that is okay. Your subscription is protected, is okay. Will be on create. In case it will give you in case of any charges. That is what 816. It's up there. That is okay. It's validating. I'm going to create this. Once you create your server, you will get a public IP, right? So you need to access like this, SSH-L To initiate an SSH tunnel, the following command needs to be run from a command prompt. First, you have to log into that server, right? While this takes some time, deployment is in progress because it has to download the WAR file and create it. So we'll go over it. This is not working. That is okay. You can directly log in to your portal and create a Jenkins server like how I have done just now. Create a new resource group in case if you want, or just prepare Jenkins machine to use the same thing. Networking, all those things, set up all those things. By default, you'll get it. And as a now you need to do this. Where is my notepad? SSH hyphen. Basically, you are mapping your VM to your local. This is what hyphen L is local. My local port is 8080 colon local host of 8080. Again, this is the VMs and what is the name? PHA admin at my IP. I need to get IP address for that. Let me see if I got my resource. This is my public IP. It is public IP. Right? VM it has provided, but we'll see. For security reasons, Jenkins generate an initial password. So generally, if you want to log into the Jenkins first time, you should have an admin password, which is one-time password. So that will be available in this location, where lib Jenkins secret under the secrets, irrespective of wherever it is. If it is Windows, the install location of your Windows, followed by secrets and the initial password. There will be a file called initial password, and this there will be one encrypted password in this. So first time you need to use this password to log into that. As soon as you log in, you need to create your root account or basically admin account and change the password so that that admin will become the super user for further actions. Right? Same thing I would have given the steps here. Here. First, open your browser, whatever it is, localhost. Then log in. Copy paste that password, whatever you have collected in the previous step. Then click on continue. Then again, how to reset all those things, that is okay. So meanwhile, what we will do, we need a repository for this. So I will take one existing repository. Basically, we are trying to download one repository. Sign in with your Azure account, DevOps account, right? Accept, continue. There will be different templates you will get, right? My template, create a project. What project you want under my basket.a3, right? Create a project name, right? Demo project or my Jenkins project, you can say. It will take some time. Actually, we are creating my Jenkins project under my repository Bhaskar E3. Why do we need this? This will be linked to your Jenkins, basically. So we'll create that end-to-end flow. Created 3 items, created board columns, whatever it is. So just a template, just taking an open source which is available from the Microsoft. While this gets created, there is my portal. This is right. This is my portal. Connect to this. Which one we have? This is SSH will do. SSH. Security. We have taken our IP actually somewhere, right? We have taken, I think it's different. Go to your command prompt and use this. Yes, I want to press this. That's logged into that VM. What just now, right? Just now I have created one VM, right? That is the VM. Right? The name Jenkins VM. You remember this is what we have created. Right? Cat of where will the default location will be in where lib Jenkins and secrets. Hash initial admin password will be the file name. Such file is saying PWD, where are we? CD2 where CD2 lib ls Jenkins here. This is the default location. This is the problem with this Linux Jenkins. It should begin. Jenkins home itself is not done.
Sir, I think, do you need to initialize Jenkins?
No. What we have done is we have created a Jenkins VM, right? If you remember,
Okay, VM
where
itself
is
is
that?
created, but I think Jenkins should get
We
installed.
created a Jenkins VM. Yes,
Okay.
yes. A template should actually HTML 400 SSH keygen provide. What we have done? SSH FNI, whatever the admin followed by. We are connected to this VM now. Ideally, by default, it is in varlib only. I don't know why it is.
Can I just check the Jenkins version, whether it is installed properly?
No, Jenkins. There is some problem with the package itself. Let me check it. So basically what happens, we need a file called, the initial password basically. Now, ideally, what if you open your this thing, will come to know it, whether it is installed properly or not. HTTP colon local host is given 8080, right? That's what we have done, the expose. Is it doing something or just hanging?
No, why we are using localhost? Can we use that public IP address 8080?
No, what I am trying to do here is, if you see here,
Yeah, it's local.
local host, I have exposed the system
Okay.
8080 to my local 8080.
This 808, the port is open, right, in that VM?
Yes, yes. See, it is
Uh,
working.
yeah, it is working.
This is not from my system. Since we have exposed that VM localhost to my local,
Okay, good. Got it.
I'm just using localhost 8080 because I have exposed that 8080 to my 8080.
80, okay. Okay. Now we
Now,
should
if you
admin
want to
password.
log in here, you need a
Admin password.
default is admin.
Hmm.
You need here the password.
Yeah.
For that password, it is ideally should get created under
Maybe for this package, path may be different.
yeah, it's what he is not giving anything here. Looks like this is one. Is this one, right? This is my Jenkins VM, right? Overview of this. Maybe I'll have something. Network. Maybe let me try this. That initial login, we need that once more. Ideally, sometimes it will display in the web browser itself.
Yeah, actually, Bhaskar, what we used to do, like we used to create one VM and then we used to install that Debian package or send to it.
Generally, even we do most of the time
Uh,
because
uh, and that password will be displayed in that web page only. That's it.
login page itself. Yes,
Mm. But why this is not happening here? Maybe.
there is some issue with that. A sec. Or what we can do. Or we can just try to where are we? City. Ideally, it should be here. No, this is the problem with this some templates. We to lib this apt cloud. We to root and maybe you have something here. Let me try to find my name my password. Permission denied is okay. At least I should have my key, right? Barely. Is it in ETC? Maybe. Very slow. Do we have Jenkins here by chance? No, right. Okay. Okay, I'll check. Maybe I'll try with different template. Western here. Even when my environment variable is not given, that is the problem here. Though the VM is up. It is. Okay, not an issue. Once you log in, I'll come back to this point. Basically, you will get an admin password. So with that admin password, you need to log in. Once you log in, you have to go to Jenkins. There will be an option called people, and by default, admin will be there. Select that and click on configure. Under that, you'll have an option to set the new password. So ultimately, you got your new password. Then few other settings which are required. Manage Jenkins, all those things. We'll talk about it. I mean, practically, if I show that, that makes sense than talking theoretically, right? So, basically, what we'll do, we'll install the required plugins. So we'll install the required plugins, then we will use it. So we'll link it the project, whatever we have downloaded, right? Just now we have downloaded and configured one project, right? So what happened to that? We'll see that. The project is there. Let's say if you go and see here, refresh, my Jenkins project is here. We'll link this project to our Jenkins host and create it. End to end, whatever the artifacts, that connection, all those things. And basically, you need to follow a lot of steps here. So there is no other option. So it's a bit tedious job, but see here, there are so many steps you have to do to link it. Almost 24. Then again, you have different approaches to connect between your Jenkins and your pipelines, right? We'll talk about that. Okay. So after this, there is we'll talk about artifacts, which is like whatever the artifacts we are till now we are getting it right. So using whether it can be a pipeline or it can be a Jenkins or whatever the form it is, right? Once we complete artifacts, maybe we need another around 10 sessions to complete other things. Like we'll talk about Docker, we'll talk about Kubernetes, right? And we'll try to connect all those things to our DevOps, basically, right? That life cycle, so that we can. Today we'll wind up. So we'll continue this Jenkins. I'll find out a different template and try to create a new Jenkins server and continue further. My network is also not that great. I'm actually not. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.